Welcome back to the Beginner to Expert Investing course. Today, we're going to look at Lesson 3, How the Stock Market Works. Let's jump in. Our objectives for today are as follows. We're going to look at the different stock exchanges throughout the world. We're going to see how companies are listed in terms of publicly, privately, and why they choose the different strategies they choose, the bid and ask spread between buyers and sellers, and how investors buy and sell stocks on the market. So to begin, we're going to start off with some basic definitions that are really important to the overall course. We begin with stock, which is a financial security that represents a partial ownership in a company. When you're an owner in that business, you vote on who's on the board of directors, and that overall board is going to make choices in terms of where money's invested, how they think about debt, and a variety of other things that you don't have to personally get involved in, but you hope that you're getting representatives that are making the right choices overall. Next, we look at the ticker symbol. This is a 1 to 5 character or so abbreviation of the business that you can search on major websites or like on my application that I created. In this example, we have Google, Microsoft, Netflix, and Ford. Next, we can look at the differentiation between public and private company, where a public company is listed on the market for anyone to purchase openly, where private is inaccessible. In the next slide, I'm getting into a very specific example. So the example I'm going to give here is Amazon and Whole Foods. So Amazon currently is a publicly traded company, meaning that you can buy individual pieces of that business at a particular price. Whole Foods is a private organization in the sense that it was bought out by Amazon and now acts as a part of Amazon. So when you buy Amazon, you're a part owner in Whole Foods. However, Whole Foods used to be publicly traded. So next, we're going to look at how exactly the price, at least in the short term, is going to be determined between the seller and the buyer. And so in this case, we're looking at the ask and the bid. So the ask is the amount the seller is asking for that particular asset, and the bid is the offer we're going to try to buy that thing for. And so the classic example of this, of course, is a car auction. The auction might say, hey, I'm going to sell a car for $1,000. I try to bid, and I'm willing to pay that $1,000, but somebody else tries to outcompete me, and they go for $1,050. I try for $1,100, and we go back and forth until eventually, in my case, that I'm going to give in my doc, the buyer on the other side gives up. I am awarded the car, and next thing you know, I get this wonderful 1975 Volkswagen thing that I definitely don't actually want. Next, I want to move to the most common ways in which companies go from being private to public on the market. So we're going to start with the initial public offering. This is a way in which a company sells pieces of the company, which are known as shares, to the public. And there's a particular investment bank that's going to financially back them in terms of the collateral to ensure that they can be somewhat financed. The sale of the shares raise money for the company so that they have an ability to reinvest back into their overall operations. And so the examples I give here are Facebook and Ferrari. The next case is a fairly simple one, and that's the direct listing. It's effectively where you don't actually need an investment bank to back the overall business from going from private to public. They basically just list as they are. And so the buying and selling of the overall market is basically going to determine what the overall price should be set at when you're starting out. And so the examples I give here are Spotify, Slack, Coinbase. This next version of listing is a little bit more speculative, and I don't necessarily recommend people to invest in these unless they have a lot of in-depth research. It's known as a special purpose acquisition vehicle, or more commonly called a SPAC. This is where a company goes public with no operating business. They raise cash from investors over time. Then that acquires another public company, and then the private company automatically becomes publicly traded. It's very confusing overall structure until you see it more on paper of how the overall loop goes. But some examples I've listed here are Virgin Galactic and DraftKings. They can work as investments, but I would say you need to do a lot of in-depth research to be absolutely certain that this model is meant for you to invest in. Another simple example that we can look at is the reverse merger. This is simply where a private company merges with an existing public company. Again, this is a lot quicker and easier to do because obviously the public company already exists, so they don't really have to do much. And again, it's used by smaller businesses. I don't have any particular examples off the top of my head that you can use, but it does occur. The last example I'm going to give was what's called the spin-off. That's where you take a publicly traded company, in this case I'm giving Constellation Software as the example, and then have a particular segment spin off into a separate company that's also going to be publicly traded. And that's exactly what happened here. Constellation Software has a variety of different segments within their business. They then said, we're going to take one particular specialized segment and become a separate business entity that you can also purchase into separately. Next, we're going to look at what are considered to be the active times in which you can buy and sell different things on the market. So in the United States, markets open at 9:30 a.m. and close at 4 p.m. on standard business days. Pre-market is defined as anything before 9:30 a.m., at least in that particular Eastern Standard Time zone, and anything after 4 p.m. is considered post-market. In each country, it differs in terms of when the overall markets will open. So, for example, in China, I've listed here that at 9:30 a.m. at China Standard Time is when they'll open, and then they choose to close at 3 p.m. I believe they also have a break for lunch in between as well. And these are considered exchanges, which I'm going to get into in a moment. And so when we look at where can we actually buy these companies, it largely depends on a combination of a variety of different factors. So when you go to buy a stock, you have to buy based on a stock exchange, and that is a regulated marketplace where investors buy and sell shares of publicly traded companies. So in the USA, for example, you have the NASDAQ and the NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange. I'm Canadian, so one of our primary exchanges is the Toronto Stock Exchange. And some companies will list on multiple exchanges depending on the size and how much exposure they want to different markets. So for example, the example I gave was Ferrari. Ferrari is obviously an Italian company that wants to occupy mostly in Europe, but they also want to have the exposure to the large American market, and so they're listed as ticker symbols in both markets. Another example, of course, I'm familiar with here in Canada would be Constellation Software. They're listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange, but also listed within the United States. A company can also be listed as over-the-counter. This can happen for a number of different reasons. It can be because they're small, they could be delisted, but ultimately they're not technically on any major exchange. And so there's not an intermediary broker between the buyer and seller, but ultimately you can still buy them if you want. There are some inherent perceived risks with buying these companies, but we can get into that more as we progress throughout the course. Next, we're going to move on to what particular factors are actually affecting the buy and sell price at which people perceive as appropriate to buy an asset on the market. So we can look here, we can look at anything from news to the CNBC and MSNBC's perception of what they think the stock should be. That affects public opinion. Future expectations by retail investors or analysts will also influence opinion between each other of where the stock should be bought. Stop loss orders, they're effectively just computer algorithms that are set up to buy and sell things based off of the stock or asset hitting a particular price. Macro factors like earthquakes and other natural disasters, interest rates, they all have an effect on what the underlying borrowing rate is and the perceived risk of those assets. Company earnings, if a company has good earnings, that's perceived as good in the short term, and therefore sentiment will improve. If the earnings are bad in the short term, everyone seems to think short term, so therefore the price of the stock will go down. General valuation, which is calculated off of certain finances that have already happened or will happen into the future, will also determine the price. And then we can also look at just general supply and demand in certain industries like, say, grain and oil that are classified as commodity-based industries. And also we can look at industry trends. So we've had times where there's just an extreme sentiment, say the dot-com bubble back around the late 90s into early 2000s. That was just the thing that, technology can only do well. And even right now with artificial intelligence, there's a whole bunch of debate of how good is this industry and how long can it last. And just a couple of takeaways before we go in terms of what you can do. I would start by looking up a couple of companies on Yahoo Finance that you already know and just figure out what kind of a stock exchange are they listed on. Is it one? Is it multiple? Is it an over-the-counter example? And just get an understanding of how to use a basic platform like that, or you can go to my own platform at www.stockflow.ca. I would also search your favorite companies on either Google or your favorite large language model and just ask it, how did this company become public? Just so you have an understanding of kind of how the funding model works and whether or not it was something unique or just one of the 5 standard ones that we already went through. And so in the next lesson, we're going to look at how there's an interplay between risk and return and your overall investing practice.